Let's start with the biggest mystery of the entire show. From nobody can leave. They drive around, down the road, turn around, then try another direction, and somehow they always end up right back in town. That's not just creepy, that's oddly specific. But before we get into it, if you enjoy hidden clues, fan theories, and deep dives into TV shows and movies, hit that subscribe button for me. It really helps me grow the channel and it lets me keep making content like this. All right, let's go. In Celtic folklore, there are stories about people accidentally wandering to the realm of the Fae. Once they crossed the invisible boundary, getting back home wasn't as simple as walking out. The land itself seemed to trap them. Roads changed, directions stopped making sense. It was like the realm had a mind of its own. Doesn't that sound familiar? Then there's time. We still don't fully understand how time works in From. People have visions of different time periods. Certain events seem to connect across generations. Some characters even experience dreams that feel more like real in reality itself. In Fae folklore, time is one of the biggest warning signs. There are stories of people spending what felt like maybe one night in fairyland only to return home to realize years or even decades have passed. Time didn't obey human rules there. Now, I'm not saying From is doing this exactly, but it's interesting that both worlds treat time as something flexible. So at this point, I started asking myself, if From really is borrowing from Celtic folklore, then who are these supernatural beings? That's when I came across something called the Seelie and the Unseelie Courts. The Seelie Court was generally considered the more honorable side. They weren't necessarily good, but they were always willing to help the humans and follow certain rules. Now, the Unseelie Court, on the other hand, thrived on fear, manipulation, and human suffering. And suddenly, the two characters from came to my mind. Let's start with the man in yellow. From the moment he appears on screen, he feels different. He's not introduced like one of the other walking creatures, the ones that smile, the one that's just lurk in the dark. He doesn't lure outside the windows. He doesn't whisper for someone to let him in unless he's talking to Sarah. He doesn't need to pretend to be harmless. He simply shows up and immediately commands the attention of others. Think about it. Every major supernatural story usually has levels. You have the soldiers, the generals, and eventually the big one, the king. The man in yellow doesn't feel like another soldier. He feels like someone who outranks everyone we've seen. And what really caught my attention is how calm he is. He's not angry. He doesn't get frantic. He's completely in control. That shows confidence. The confidence of someone who knows the world belongs to him. If this really is inspired by Fae mythology, then maybe the man in yellow isn't just another creature. Maybe he's the ruler of the darker court, the one pulling the strings while everyone else carries out his will. Now let's compare him to the boy in white. He's just as mysterious, but his actions can't be more different. He doesn't lure people into danger. He doesn't feed on fear. In fact, every time he appears, he's trying to guide someone. He's done help Victor, Ethan, Tabitha. Honestly, it's random sometimes. Now, does that automatically make him good? Not necessarily. In Celtic folklore, the Seelie Court doesn't make up the perfect heroes. They still have their own agenda. They still manipulate humans. They simply weren't as cruel as the Unseelie. That actually fits the boy in white pretty well. He's helpful, but he never explains everything, if anything at all. He gives clues, he nudges people in a direction, then he disappears. Almost like he's following rules that prevent him from interfering too much. What if he's trying to help, but there are limits to what he's allowed to do? Now let's talk about the monsters, because honestly, they've never acted like typical monsters. If their only goal was to kill people, why don't they just sprint? Why don't they break down the doors? Why do they smile? They enjoy conversations, they manipulate emotions, they imitate loved ones, they convince people to make bad choices. And that's something we see over and over again in stories about darker Fae. They didn't always win through strength. They won by tricking people into making the wrong decisions. That's exactly what these creatures do. They don't force you to open a window. They convince you to do it. It's almost like fear isn't just a tool. It's the entire point. One of the biggest mysteries in From has always been the rules, because there are rules. We just don't understand all of them yet. The talismans work. Why? Nobody knows. The monsters stop at a certain point. Why? Nobody knows. The boy in white doesn't simply teleport everyone out. Why? Nobody knows. It's almost as if every supernatural force in this town, even the powerful ones, are all bound by the same ancient laws. That's another reason this Fae theory grabbed my attention. In old Celtic stories, magic wasn't random. Even powerful Fae had rules they couldn't break. Ancient bargains, sacred boundaries, enchanted protections. Breaking those rules came with consequences. Maybe the talisman aren't keeping monsters away because they're holy. Maybe they're enforcing rules that even the man in yellow has to respect. Then there's the forest itself. Sometimes I wonder if we've been treating it like a scenery, then maybe it's actually a character. The trees move, people get lost, certain places seem impossible to find twice. The woods always feel alive. In Celtic mythology, the forest wasn't just where the Fae lived. The forest was part of their power. It protected them, it confused outsiders, it decided who could pass and who stayed trapped. Even the crows seem intentional. They're consistently watching people, almost like messengers. In mythology, crows are often connected to the other world, serving as omens or guides between different realms. Now, does that mean every crow I'm from automatically means fae? No. But when you put the crows, the forest, the magical rules, the looping rose, the boy in white, and now the man in yellow, it starts to feel less like coincidence and more like the writers may be pulling inspiration from a much older mythology. Now here's the part I can't stop thinking about. If the man in yellow really is the ruler of the darker court, then who or what is the ruler of the lighter one? Is it the boy in white, or have we not met him yet? And before somebody types, "You're reaching," maybe I am, but that's the fun in this show. From is built to make us question everything. And this is just one theory that I think fits surprisingly well until season 5, of course.